The movie opens with a family gathered for dinner. Suddenly, there's a knock on the door, and the father goes to check who's there. He looks through the peephole, and to his shock, the visitor named Rocco shoots him and then proceeds to attack and kill the rest of the family. Before leaving, Rocco cuts off one of the father's fingers, which he plans to send to the imprisoned mafia boss, Don Lucchese. Even though Don Lucchese is behind bars for his criminal activities, he still wields significant power and continues to control his criminal empire. He uses hitmen like Rocco to target and eliminate families he believes have betrayed him. Turning to Giovanni Manzoni, whom has recently moved to a new home in Paris, along with his wife, Maggie, and their children, Belle and Warren. Their family had to relocate due to the FBI's witness protection program because they had cooperated with the FBI to expose crimes committed by the mafia, including the notorious Don Lucchese. This made Lucchese view Giovanni and his family as traitors who needed to be eliminated, leading him to send Rocco to hunt them down. Upon arriving in Paris, the Manzoni family was given new identities by the FBI to keep them safe and hidden from Lucchese's associates. Belle and Warren also started attending a new school in Paris to blend in like an ordinary family. As FBI witnesses, Giovanni and his family received 24-hour protection from FBI agents who guarded their residence. A few days after their move to Paris, Belle and Warren started attending their new school. Meanwhile, Maggie went to the supermarket for groceries, leaving Giovanni alone to explore the garage. In the garage, Giovanni came across an old typewriter that still worked, catching his interest. At the same time, Maggie experienced unpleasant treatment from the cashier and some customers at the supermarket. Despite the mockery, she remained composed but secretly gathered a gas canister and flammable materials, setting them on fire before leaving the store until the supermarket eventually exploded. Back at school, Belle and Warren were trying to act like any normal students to keep their true identities hidden. Being new transfer students, Warren became the target of some troublemakers who wanted to harass him. Unfazed, Warren, who had dealt with such situations before, stood up to the troublemakers, even allowing them to beat him up. During lunchtime, Warren and Belle had lunch in the cafeteria, with Warren sporting bruises on his face. Luckily, his injuries weren't too severe, as he knew how to protect himself. Belle wasn't surprised by this, as they had often changed schools and dealt with troublemakers, and Warren can easily read people's characters. After school, Belle found herself walking alone until a group of troublesome male students in a car pulled up beside her. They invited her to ride with them and get to know them better. Despite knowing their ill intentions, Belle decided to get into the car with them. As they arrived at a lake, the troublemaking students unexpectedly stopped the car and suggested relaxing by the lake before taking her home. One of the troublemakers began to make unwelcome advances towards Belle, which angered her. She spotted a tennis racket in the car and used it to fend off the troublemaker. Her courage stunned the other troublemakers, and she even took control of their car and drove herself home. Later, when Giovanni and his family were together, Robert Stansfield, the leader of the mission to protect them, paid a visit to their house to ensure their safety. During the visit, he also asked about a missing fishmonger who used to sell fish in their area but had disappeared for 2 weeks. Unbeknownst to Robert, Giovanni was the one who had killed the fishmonger. This happened after the fishmonger lied to Maggie about the freshness of his fish. Furious, Giovanni had brutally beaten the fishmonger to death and secretly buried the body in their backyard at night. However, Giovanni lied to Robert, claiming he had never seen the missing fishmonger. Robert then left but asked Giovanni to inform him if he ever came across fishmonger. One day, Giovanni experienced a horrifying nightmare. In his dream, he found himself at a mafia gathering, surrounded by all the mafia members who were under Lucchese's command. They held him at gunpoint, and Lucchese, who seemed to have been released from prison, appeared to be after him and his family. This terrifying dream left Giovanni wide awake, with thoughts of Lucchese's relentless pursuit haunting him. To calm his nerves, he decided to use the old typewriter he had discovered in the garage earlier and began writing his life story as a former mafia member. Giovanni also made a list of 10 things that he believed made him a good person. Unfortunately, these actions were not the kind one would expect from a person leading a normal life, and they were certainly not suitable for others to follow. After completing his writing, Giovanni had an unexpected visitor, a plumber who had come to fix some plumbing issues in his house. Giovanni was quite irritated because the plumber arrived very late, making him wait for over 2 hours. Despite being tardy, the plumber didn't offer an apology and immediately demanded payment for the plumbing work, even though he hadn't finished the job yet. To make matters worse, the plumber asked for extra fees if Giovanni wanted the job to be completed more quickly. Giovanni's anger boiled over, and he grabbed a baseball bat and mercilessly attacked the plumber. Fortunately, Giovanni decided not to take the plumber's life. Instead, he felt a sense of responsibility for the serious injuries he had inflicted and rushed the wounded plumber to the hospital. Giovanni's cover story was that the plumber had fallen from a ladder, leaving the injured man unable to speak due to the damage to his throat. However, the doctor who examined the plumber found Giovanni's explanation suspicious. After a thorough examination, it became clear that the plumber had suffered from 12 broken bones, an injury far too severe to have been caused by a minor ladder fall, as Giovanni had claimed. Meanwhile, Maggie had her own secret mission. She headed to an empty house, located just across from their own residence. Maggie visited this location, which served as the main headquarters for the FBI agents monitoring her family. Her purpose was to provide the agents with food as a gesture of gratitude for their diligent surveillance efforts. The FBI agents were pleased with Maggie's frequent visits, as she often brought them meals while they were on duty, keeping an eye on her family. Back at school, Warren hatches a secret plan to get back at the troublemaking students who had harassed him earlier. He approaches a nerdy classmate and strikes a deal. Warren offers to do the homework for a large, muscular student in exchange for rare collectible cards, which are highly sought after. His goal is to gain assistance from the strong student to confront the troublemakers, promising to help with the student's homework in return. Additionally, Warren decides to steal medicine from the school's pharmacy to raise money, which he plans to use to hire tough students who can help him in his revenge mission. When the day arrives, Warren and his hired students successfully confront the troublemaking students. Meanwhile, Belle, frustrated by the constant harassment, decides to confront a troublesome female student who had been bothering her and stands up for herself. Additionally, Belle secretly harbors a crush on a young substitute teacher named Andrew, who is still in college. To get Andrew's attention, she approaches him and asks for extra math tutoring. Andrew agrees to help Belle with her studies, and they frequently meet, growing closer in the process. As their relationship deepens, Belle, wanting to confess her feelings, decides to take a bold step. She unexpectedly goes to Andrew's room and locks them inside, hoping to have a private conversation with him. However, Andrew is unaware of Belle's romantic feelings for him, and she starts to make advances by removing her clothing, trying to seduce him. A few days later, Maggie decides to throw a party in their backyard, inviting all the neighbors and avoid raising suspicion about their true identity as a mafia family. Giovanni, although not thrilled about the party, goes along with it. While Giovanni is busy grilling meat, some men approach and start criticizing his grilling skills in front of the party guests. Giovanni becomes furious and envisions pushing one man's head into the grill. Fortunately, he manages to control his anger and doesn't harm anyone during the party. Robert is also present at the party, discreetly monitoring the situation to ensure everything goes smoothly. After the party, Giovanni and his family, who have been living in the area for a month, are frustrated with the cloudy tap water, and even the neighbors are facing the same issue. Giovanni goes to the mayor's office to report the problem, but the mayor doesn't offer any solutions. This leads Giovanni to visit the city's water department office. There he discovers that the cloudy water issue is caused by a chemical fertilizer company improperly disposing of waste. Without delay, Giovanni confronts the owner of the fertilizer plant, who shows no remorse and is indifferent to the water problem. Frustrated by the owner's response, Giovanni secretly creates a time bomb and plants it in the chemical fertilizer plant. To avoid arousing suspicion from Robert and other FBI agents, Giovanni times the explosion to occur while he is at home. Additionally, he physically confronts the factory owner and punishes him for disregarding the complaints of the mafia leader. Meanwhile, at school, Warren is given a task by his teacher to come up with a motto for the school newspaper. Warren's difficulty in finding an idea is resolved when he remembers a childhood experience at a mafia event where Lucas spoke a motto: "If it's good enough for you, it's good enough for me." Everyone at the gathering, including young Warren, burst into laughter. Surprisingly, Warren's motto is chosen to be printed in the school newspaper and used as the label for alcoholic beverages, sent by a Parisian company to Lucas in prison. When Lucas sees the motto on the beverage label, he realizes it's a phrase exclusive to the mafia, prompting him to contact Rocco and instruct the hitman to fly to France. Switching to Giovanni, he receives a phone call from his neighbor, who invites him to watch a movie and participate in a film discussion forum. The neighbor is intrigued after Giovanni claimed to be a writer who could make the discussions more engaging. On the following day, Warren has a meeting with the teachers due to his involvement in a fight with some troublemaking students at school. Meanwhile, Belle is heartbroken as Andrew decides to end their relationship because he plans to continue his studies abroad for an extended period. Back to Giovanni, he decided to accept the neighbor's invitation. Robert, upon hearing this, initially had concerns about the potential risks to the Manzoni family's identity. However, Giovanni managed to convince Robert by inviting the FBI mission leader to join the event. Later that night, Warren, who had gotten into trouble at school, contemplated running away from home to start a new life. Simultaneously, Belle, still heartbroken, intentionally stood on the roof of a building across from the police station, hoping that Andrew would invite her to go abroad with him. Meanwhile, Warren found himself at a train station where he had a change of heart about running away after spotting Rocco and his group disembarking from a train. He realized that Rocco had discovered their family's location and immediately called home to warn them of the danger. However, Warren grew increasingly panicked when there was no answer from his family, unaware that Maggie had picked up the phone just as he left the public phone. Meanwhile, Rocco and his group launched attacks on both the police station and the fire department, disrupting any assistance that could reach Giovanni and his family. Belle, who witnessed Rocco's actions from the rooftop of a nearby building, rushed home to warn her endangered family. At the same time, Giovanni and Robert were still at the movie event. Giovanni even became a panelist to discuss the criminal world, inspired by the mafia film they had just watched. Giovanni, despite being a mafia member, eagerly shared insights into the mafia's activities with his neighbors. This raised concerns for Robert, who feared Giovanni might reveal too much about the mafia's world. Therefore, he swiftly contacted two of his colleagues to prepare for relocating the Manzoni family to a new, safer location. A few moments later, at midnight, the time bomb planted by Giovanni in the chemical fertilizer plant finally exploded. Robert became suspicious that Giovanni might be behind the chaos. He swiftly drove Giovanni back home and instructed him to stay put until further directions from the FBI. After dropping Giovanni off, Robert went to the police station to inquire about the explosion at the fertilizer plant. Meanwhile, Maggie was at the FBI headquarters with two agents guarding her. Soon after, she said her goodbyes and was alarmed to spot dozens of men wearing hoods and black hats surrounding her house. In a state of panic, Maggie rushed back inside and alerted the FBI agents, informing them that Rocco and his group had found their location. At the same time, Robert was shocked to discover law enforcement officers lying injured, surrounded by blood. He urgently contacted his two subordinates to enhance security. Sadly, it was too late. Giovanni's house had been blown up by Rocco's henchmen. Luckily, Giovanni, who was alone at home, survived the explosion. However, the two FBI agents who had prepared to confront Rocco's henchmen were killed when they were attacked from outside the house. Maggie sought refuge quickly, and Giovanni rushed to the FBI surveillance headquarters to rescue his wife before one of Rocco's henchmen could harm her. Meanwhile, Belle and Warren had also arrived near their home to help their parents. They quickly retrieved weapons from the car trunk and shot down all of Rocco's henchmen who had come to their house. Rocco, the only one left, managed to shoot Warren and then chased after Belle. Luckily, When Belle reached an intersection, Robert rammed his car into Rocco, who was still pursuing her. In the end, the film showed Giovanni and his family having to change their identities once again and move to a safer city to escape Lucius, who was rumored to have hired another hitman to target the Manzoni family. Moral lesson from the story: when you grill meat at a party, people might criticize your cooking skills. But remember, it's better to have a burnt and smoky flavored sausage than your home ending up in an explosive situation.